here. We ask that you, as we progress through the, guess you call it the virus situation, that you watch over everybody, keep your healing hands on those that have been affected and those that have been sick, and watch over those that have passed and their families. We ask that you watch over this council tonight to make fair and right decisions. We thank you very much for what our staff has done, carrying us through this situation and hanging in there and keeping the city running as it is. And we do all we do in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kat, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Shute.
Here.
Carlisle.
Here.
Ivy.
Here.
Lawrence.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Detman. He's here.
He's here. He's in. Detman's in the other room. So.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Okay.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
These are the old ones.
Any business from the audience? If you'll see Clerk Haley, if you're not on the agenda, she'll take care of that. If you want to, when we're going through these things, we will ask if there's any questions or comments from the audience. You can call in. Am I right, Paul? Yeah, you can call in and we'll answer your questions.
You have to go through Zoom.
Yeah, you have to go through Zoom, but we'll be more than glad to answer any questions you have. Thank you. Mayor's report?
I'd just like to say it's kind of nice to see things starting to navigate back to normal. I think we've done a pretty good job in the state overall and in the county as far as what this virus is, and really, you know, it's how many people it's really affected. You know, I feel remorse for those that have passed due to the thing, but it's been a relatively low impact, I think, to our community, and it's nice to see that our businesses, our small businesses, are coming back to life. We got our restaurants back open, we got the gyms open, so Mark, if you want to get back to the gym, you can do that at this time, and Chief Detman, if you want to go to the gym, you're more than welcome. But secondly, I would like to welcome our esteemed Mayor George Hensley for in the audience, and thank you for coming back, and hopefully we're holding up to your standards. So, but we appreciate you. You're a guiding light through the city for a long time. So, the other thing I have to discuss is our 4th of July celebration. It's an agenda item that we have, and there's July 4th is coming up pretty quick. We've got some, I've talked with Scott, city staff and that stuff about, you know, what to do, where to go. My opinion is we need to have it. It's a celebration of our country. I don't think we should let the virus get us down. We encourage the people that would come to this, if the council so chooses to participate, that we ask for the social distancing as much as possible, that we can. It's an outdoor event. But I really think it's important for us to show the solidarity in our country and how we feel about who we are. And it's really, we're getting back to speed. We should be well down the road from the initial part of the virus, and so that should not be much of a question at all. But there's several, kind of laid out several different things here, and I didn't feel comfortable, except Mark Stewart did offer to help chip in to pay for the event this year. Normally we go out and solicit funds. We'll solicit some people that we think, you know, will participate, but we do have in the coffers $2,316 from previous years that went unspent. Our normal range is about $20,000 for the shows. We got to that show. CRA, thanks to David and Kelly back there, also thank you for coming, have graciously chipped in $5,000. The city has put in $5,000 in the past. And then we've raised the balance of the money from the community, and they've been very receptive to it, another 10 to actually 12,000 at some point in time. But there's several options out here if we want to maintain that without raising funds. It'd be about $8,842 between the CRA. I'm not putting you guys on the spot, but you'd have to go back to your board, I'm sure, and the city, and that would get us our normal show that we have. If we wanted to scale back a little bit, We could also do that about a 2,000 less. It'd give us about a $15,000 show. But I really think it's important that we do show our pride in our country and where we're at and who we're at. So several options here. If you all read that, I'm advocating for the full show. But it's kind of up to y'all. And we will attempt to raise some funds to cover it. So
I'm in agreement with that. We should try for the full show, and I think we should try fundraising as well.
okay.
I know that this would be a wonderful thing for the community to have the normalcy of our 4th of July fireworks. So let's go for it.
Good. Appreciate that.
I would also agree with that. I think that we should definitely have it, and some people can still social distance if it's still necessary at that time. But I think it's a huge thing. We need to get back to our independence, and especially due to the fact that we've been quarantined, if you will.
Mr. Ivey, you got anything to say?
Oh, I agree.
I agree too, and I think we should give everybody that's always given the opportunity. If they can, okay. If they can't, okay. But let's go ahead and just do like we normally do. I think, there's people that I'm sure would agree with us. We need to get back to normal.
Yep, I agree.
And I think this will help. So do we need a...
I'd like to make a motion then that we proceed with the 4th of July and go ahead and raise funds for it as well.
The full amount.
Full amount.
Full amount.
So that's kind of like your option 2 there. You're going to ask the CRA. I'm just trying to get what option you're going with. Are you going to ask the CRA for the 80?
No, we're going to try to get funds.
Well, we'll try to get, how about if we get funds as we normally would.
Okay.
Included the CRA and also the city has also kicked in. So
Right.
I'll make part of my motion that we will ask the CRA and also the city to contribute what they normally have in the past.
Okay.
Second.
We got 2 seconds there.
He was for. I heard
Trying
him
to find
first.
a new second.
Okay, is there any discussion from the audience? Anyone want to say anything? Approve, disapprove? Anybody calling in?
No, sir.
Okay, will you poll the board, please?
Detman. He cannot hear. Is that what you just said? Well, can he hear the conversation? I mean, how's he gonna do it?
I don't know, but keep asking the board.
I don't believe Zoom's working.
Ivy,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes.
Thank you. Proud to be an American. And see
Amen. I'm proud to be a free American.
That's it.
Councilman's concerns, comments, or liaison reports. Mr. Stewart.
None. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to say that we did put our fire truck in service recently, our brand new fire truck. It cost us in excess of just a little over $500,000, and it is now on the road. I saw it going down on a call the other day. So I want to say thank you to our first responders, and I do think it's important that we give them the equipment that they need in order to get
Amen.
the job done, and especially at a time like now. So thank you to our first responders, and glad that fire truck's out there doing its thing.
Amen. Mr. Ivey.
Nothing at this time.
And I agree with you, Charlie. They need their equipment to be safe. And just want to thank the council for saying okay to do so and get it. Okay. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. I entertain a motion to accept.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. Kathy, will you pull the board?
Detman, can he hear me yet?
They say it's not working.
Still not working?
He cannot hear you.
Okay, so, all right. Ivy,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes.
Can you hear everybody else?
No. He
Oh.
cannot hear anything right
Okay.
now. Sorry.
Oh,
You all can hear him, but he cannot hear you.
So all he needs to do is say yes every time he sees our mouth move. Okay, next business, old business is 9A, Adriana Fernandez. Curry Street, the background is Ms. Fernandez has been on council agenda several times in hopes of finding a solution to Curry Street following the January 21st, 2020 Sebring Council meeting. Ms. Fernandez asked the staff to survey the Curry Street property owners for potential solutions. Please find the following information. And I'm sure that each one of you read the thing. Ms. Fernandez, would you, we've got costs for the water, costs for the concrete apron. We got operations issues for fire department, solid waste.
Good evening.
Hi.
It's good to see all of you that are good.
Good evening.
Okay, if in any moment that no understand me, please let me know. All that you know that I have limit on the English, but I can try to explain better myself.
Okay.
I receive all the time, all day with the K for Scott, and for that, I received a document that one of the owner of the property sent. He talked about all the financing law that, this guy have. Okay, $20 a year on tax. I don't think that is something that, is too much expense. My question is, if he said that he lost a lot of money for what he is not here today with me on all the other times that I be here, I need support. All that you know that I am the only one that coming here, asking for help. So how this guy say that he lost financing? I can stay at home and say, hey, yeah, I have lost my money, and not do nothing. It's something, that I think is liar. $20 is what I paid last year for tax on my house. That is nothing.
Yeah.
So I am here, to see if the city already have a solution about this, or, if I can pay, because I see the quote for the company for electric and the other utility. I am agreed to pay for that company to put, the utility at home and receive the certificate for occupy. Doesn't matter if the public street is or no already, or, I am open for all ways to solution this.
Okay.
But it's frustrated for me that the older owners not do nothing. You send a letter and say, I love, money, and not do nothing.
Well, I think the biggest issue is the cost of the road. And we have the cost of the water. We have the cost of the apron. There's some issues with garbage pickup and the fire department. My suggestion, and the councilman can either approve or disapprove, but I've rode around and looked at the county, and there are county roads that are dead end, and the fire department service them, and they're dirt. My question is, why can't we put a fire hydrant out by the road and let the fire department drag hoses? That's what we have them for. And have the owners of the property sign papers releasing us of responsibilities. They have to bring their cans to the hard road, trash cans to the hard road, and sign papers that they agreed to do that and release us from the responsibilities if we can't get to their house with the fire truck or hoses. And that would be my question.
It's good point because me, like an owner, I have responsibility about the property. Clean the property stay, pretty for the city. But these owners around my house, they not do nothing. They stay at home and not move, any finger. So, I don't know. It is, I need found
can we
really
do
find a way.
that as a city? Can we get, if they wanna get Greg's walking out on it, but if they want a CO to move in, can we get them to give us releases?
You can, just, I think mentally you would do it knowing that at some point, after the home's changed hands a couple of times, people will want the same thing that everybody else in the city gets, and they won't wanna have to haul their things up to the road, or they'll wanna get what others get, so, you know, we went through that not long ago with folks that had a private road that wanted to keep it private and maintain it themselves, and then years later came to the city and said, hey, you know, we're taxpayers too, take care of this, fix this problem for us, please.
Well, I would think if they could get COs and stuff, if they signed those letters, that they would get people in those houses, which would start getting bigger tax revenues off of, so eventually we could do something for the road and not just be out of our pocket.
Well,
I
they
think-
can get the CO.
Can,
Well,
I don't think they can with the fire department. I think the fire department's a holdup.
Have they had inspections? No, they haven't had inspections for the work along the way.
Huh?
They have not had inspections.
You'd have to get everything re-inspected, so. But I think the biggest issue is the four, I think there's 4 other houses, that there has been no they have not communicated back at all.
They
I
don't
think-
care.
No,
I
they're
think,
fair.
I know they don't, I think the only ones that communicated back were the owners of just the raw land.
Yeah.
But the guys that own the property, the buildings themselves, I don't know how you know, is there a liability situation if you cover this one and you don't get absolution from the other ones, or, you know, what happens with that? I don't,
Well,
I think
that's
that,
the
I mean, this
reason
thing is such a mess, you know?
Right.
It's a little frustrating because I think you see that area. That houses are the best houses on that area. You know, all around that is terrible. People put trash in front of the houses, everything. And if you see that houses, people respect that houses. I
Right.
don't know for what, but nobody put trash there, or nobody entered to the house and living there. So it's something very strange, you know, that 5 houses or 4 houses, I don't remember now, stay closed for years and years, and the people respect that. But it's the most pretty houses on that area.
Well, those houses have been broken into in the past, but I think the people that has bought them fixed them, or at least, you know, windows and stuff. Greg, you got something you can talk to us about? Have you been listening?
Sorry, I had to step out to take.
No,
a
that's
phone-
okay.
I had to step out to take a phone call. Greg Griffin, building official. Scott had said that you had asked about the issuance of a CO on the property. So the CO, the standard for the CO would be the same. I don't know what status the house is in. So if there are any plans or revisions that need to be made, they need to be brought to the current standard, which is the FBC 2017 or Florida Building Code 2017 6th edition. With regards to a CO beyond the building code standards, I would expect that you, again, revert back to utilities and fire to make sure all the necessary utilities are in place. The only others, if they're not on sanitary sewer, they would need a septic tank, and that goes to the health department.
So I think the septic tanks
Yeah,
are there.
it's there.
I think everything's there. The water lines are there. They just need this line under the road and an apron, and us to say, go ahead.
And that, Greg, in that status, I mean, Greg, let me ask you a question. I think we've been through this, and it just, there's so much stuff that's gone around with this thing, but the status that the road is in, you can get a CO with the status that the road is in?
I'm assuming the road's passable and functional. I think that goes back to Muni code more than what our standard is as the city, as opposed to the building code, Florida building code specifically. You know, if it's up to you guys how you want to address the Muni code issues.
I mean, help us out with the Muni code issues, because we're just,
So municipal code, and Scott, maybe you can help on this, but it's got this, that's what has the specifications for what your connections to roads should be, with regards to whether you need an apron, whether you need a driveway. And I think that was one of the holdups with regards
think-
to the road being in
So I think the
place.
reference is into the city code of ordinances. And
Right.
whether
Oh,
or not
okay.
that road meets the necessary base that you would need, because the apron obviously is something that the county is requiring as a connection to
County
their
road,
roadway.
right.
Right? The road itself has to meet some type, typically would have to meet some type of standard as to base and drivability, if you will. So we would have to make sure that it is drivable. It becomes a maintenance issue for us because we're gonna have to continuously maintain it. So whether that be shell rock or whether that, you know, I'm not an engineer or public works person, but the road itself has to be maintained to a level that, you know, you can drive on it. I mean, you know, you get potentially post office, you know, I don't know what their comment's gonna be on driving on a dirt road. Maybe they drive on dirt roads. But right now, it's a dirt road and it has to be able to support, like, you know, I'm gonna say, Chief Porter said, the weight of their vehicles. And because the length of that road is as long as it is, it is necessary for him to be able to at least drive down that road partially.
So everybody in this entire community, the only one that we heard from is her really.
Yeah, I know.
And she probably has the largest financial commitment as well. But the bottom line is that she purchased that property without doing her due diligence, because had she pursued it, she would have known that she couldn't have completed the CO without electric and water. And that's really the problem. So I struggle to, especially now with the time frame we're in right now, to expend funds in this regards. I think she's got a great house and she's a wonderful person and she's working really hard, but I'm not sure if we should pay for that mistake that she made by purchasing this property.
Sorry, but I think that try to living on this city is not a mistake.
I'm
I
sorry?
don't see. I think that try to living on this city is not a mistake for me. Sorry, is what I
Well,
think.
but when you
know?
buy a piece of property, you should
Let me ask
you should research it and find out if there's liens on it and those kind of things.
Let me ask you something. No, when I buy the house is the only one that no have link. The other houses have a lot of money on link,
Right.
and the city not take that money, and maybe not take never that money. Okay, but the other question is, if the city help me with my project to live in here, the city go to charge me the same $20 every year on tax, or go to charge me more? And you say that maybe you never take back the money, but I got to sign a paper with the part that I need pay back. So you go to have an agreement, you know, on my way, you know, on the same way that you to resolve
Right.
this problem.
Yeah.
Because I know that other houses what selling, you know, but I don't understand how the city permit for years and years these houses selling and selling to a different people, lost money, lost time, and nobody do nothing,
Right.
you know.
That's a valid point.
Yes.
Why did we allow
Thank
them to be
you.
built to begin with?
But
I
yeah,
concede
sorry,
that's real.
but I not think that is a mistake. Try to live in here because I was in a Tampa City meeting, and I never say what I see when I come in here.
Mhm.
Say thanks to God and everything. You know, that is something different to me, and
Right.
I appreciate it for that. So I try every time that I come in here, is something new to me. You know that I don't speak good English, but every time that I come in here, I try to force myself
Right.
to understand you and try to that you understand to me. You know, please do
Well,
something
you've done
for
well.
this.
Yes, you've done well. The thing is, we're going to spend more money on making this work for you than you paid for the house.
When the owner of the other property see me to put electric, see to put and fix the house, I go to call their attention. You know.
Uh-huh.
Is what I see, is how I see, because they know that this property become 2008 and the city no do nothing and the other owner no do nothing.
Right.
But I am here, try to do something, try to make the difference.
I understand.
I think I got to call the attention to the other owners when they see that I can, that that they can too.
They don't have any investment, really. The other owner's investment is very small, and it
Yes.
doesn't mean much to them. You're the only one that really has this
Yeah,
impetus to pursue it,
Yes.
which
Mr. Ivy.
puts you in a bad place. So.
Mr. Ivy.
Notwithstanding, maybe you didn't do your due diligence, I understand that, everybody makes a mistake, but, we've been putting this back in the too hard to do file for a pretty long time. And I think that, one, we got liens that we don't do anything with, we sit on, right, out there, which seems to be what we do, because we're nice guys, basically. It's the only thing I can think of. I wouldn't be a bad guy sometime. But anyway, that we have these liens. Somebody's coming in trying to make what is nothing into something anyway. Now, whether or not she spurs any further development, that goes without saying. We're talking, and I don't know, Bob and Griffin here, they have $8,280 for the concrete, for the apron, and the water connection on the opposite side of the road. $8,200.
It's 6,500 for the apron and 1,780 for the
Yeah,
water.
65, yeah, 8,280 total.
Yeah.
And I think the city, speaking, has a little bit of responsibility for this, for not doing their job to begin with.
Yeah.
And then we're punishing people who want to try to make something happen. I'm the last one who wants to spend any more money. We do that quite well. But I think in some of these cases, we really have to make an exception. Now, what I don't know, with the fire department, I drove that road. I didn't fall into anything, but you got one person using it daily. I don't know how much use that road's going to get. I wouldn't want to drive down it on purpose anyway.
Or in a fire truck.
Now, that's the thing. The fire truck, if, as you said, it could be reached, put a fire hydrant and re-reach with a hose. Now, we put a little bit of a strain on the fire department there, and they're not here to, I don't think, defend themselves, so I'll go ahead now. They're not here to comment on that, but, if you had a fire over there, they'd have to do it anyway. Okay? You'd have to have some way of reaching it. You have one person there, and the likelihood of a fire, odds probably aren't that great that they would have to drive down and put out a fire there. It could happen, but the odds are probably with one house. I would like to see us be able to do something here so we're not back here another 3 months going like, well, what do we do about this, And it's the
That's
same.
the other point. I go to for myself. Every time that I can, I go to come in here and say hi and ask them again. So that is my job now. So.
Okay, does that add any benefit to it? Not to have her come back, but.
How much is that worth? Is what
Yeah, how much dollars is that worth? 80, yeah.
Charlie?
8,200?
Yeah.
But I would ask, and then Charlie, I'll shut up. I would ask that we try to do something besides put it back in the too hard to do file
I
tonight.
go to work with the city on the spends and everything. But, I only see when all are done, the pretty houses there, and I say, wow, I'm working for that. I do it, because now it's 2020 and this started in 2008. If I resolve this, wow. It's what I think.
Yeah. Charlie?
Yeah, I just, as a liaison to the fire department, let me speak on that for just a
Sure.
minute. And say that it is it's hard for the truck to get down there under certain circumstances. If you go over there and drive on that road when it's dry, in a regular car, it's probably not a big deal, but if you take a 40,000-pound vehicle down there after it's been raining, that truck gets 100 feet in there and gets stuck, and there's a fire in there. If there's somebody in that house, because we gave them a CO, I think we have a lot of liability there. I would hate to see somebody in that house without having some fire protection of some sort. And again, on that road, that's a huge difference. If it rains, and we know that we get some real, gully washers around here, what's that road gonna do then? And then you put a 40,000-pound, 50,000-pound vehicle down there. Are they gonna be able to get down there? Even if there's a hydrant on the road, I mean, most of the fire trucks have enough water on them to put out a house fire without the hydrant, if they do it correctly. And if it's not a two-story wood frame house or something like that. However, getting down there on a rainy day, I think can be a problem. And if somebody's stuck in that house, because they're living there, right now they're not living there. So the risk is very high. You're just risking property right now. But if somebody's actually living there with a CO, and we don't have access to get to that, I think that's a problem.
That's about 400 feet to that house, is
My
that?
notes say they need 600 feet. They
Gonna
need
say
600.
600 feet.
That's a big road.
If they get 200 feet into that road and get stuck with the truck,
I was gonna say that, can you drag a hose 400 feet? Is there enough hose?
You can lay a hose line from a hydrant up to 1,000 feet, okay? But if you get down that road 200 feet, and you need the truck to do that with, by the way. You get down that road 200 feet, get stuck, your jump lines are only 200 feet long, and you need that to go into the house. So you're not gonna be able to get there if you get stuck on that road. And again, on a dry day, that's great, that's fine, you can probably make it. But on, you know, when it's been raining for 2 or 3 weeks, can you get there? And if there's somebody stuck in that house, you got a problem. And then they come back and say, now, wait a second, did the city do what they should have done to give them the proper protection? And I would
I
have
think
a
you got a
problem.
liability
with
issue.
that.
I think that's
Well,
already
that's
been
what I'm
decided.
asking.
Right.
That's what I'm asking.
Even if somebody signs off, it doesn't matter if somebody dies in that fire.
Yeah.
That's the reason I was asking.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's all good points here. And Kurt said that he don't want it to come back to, let's look at it again 3 months from now.
You could always just say, Scott, fix it.
So,
Haven't gotten there yet, but.
you
Is that a
know,
motion?
I guess the question is, what are we gonna do? Or are we just not gonna do anything? Or are we gonna do anything?
I still think you have.
Okay, so she has septic, she has water, so then the problem is electric. And I don't know what this.
Well, hooking up a
I
line
think-
would be cheaper than water.
I think she already arranged to have electric taken.
Yeah.
Okay,
She's
so.
already arranged to have electric.
So she's
The
got.
water, the water's not the big issue. The impeding factor here, I think, is the road.
Is the road, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, that's the whole of it, the road.
He might be saying something. Or not.
There's some static anyway.
Yeah. If I can say something,
Yeah, absolutely.
it may sound like static also, but we maybe should get the fire department to get in there good and see not what can't be done, but what can be done. How to get there from here, not how you can't get there from here. And that's one of the things. I'm seeing here as a new person on the council that there are a number of people inside and outside this community that own property and don't care one bit about this city, how it looks, how the property is, because they can't turn a dime right now. And I think that, you know, we put up with that too much. And they have no respect for our city. And I just think that's a little pontification here, but I just think that we ought to stand up at some point. You know, swing back, do something. You know,
I think
whatever.
the problem is if you enforce all the code issues, if you foreclose on us, the city's gonna own 5 houses.
Oh,
And then what the heck we gonna do with 5 houses? You know,
Well,
and
that's
that are in much worse shape than what yours is. But that's the whole
They
issue.
buy the house for a very, very good deal,
Yeah.
about $4,000 or $6,000 each house. If you selling me the house for the same price, I buy it.
Yeah, so, that's what got you in trouble in the first place.
But you can't deal with those people. I don't think any of the houses
I
are owned
tried to
locally.
communicate with the guy that have their own 3 house, and he never answered the phone. I was
Right.
on his building and he never is there, so I don't know who's the guy.
He doesn't respond to us
No.
either, does he?
You know, it's easy to
What
pay
kind of
$20
letter?
a year. You know, it's where it's the big trouble here too. Because if they need pay in tax $3,000 every year, I promise you, they go to do something. You know.
I think, and
Is that all the taxes are there?
$20.
$20?
Yes,
You
a
make them
year.
lot.
What about the houses?
They're
The
vacant
houses,
lot.
yeah.
The houses?
There's
They're
not
vacant.
CO.
There's no
They're not
COs.
COs.
Oh, okay.
They're really
And
not
the
housing
houses,
yet.
the other houses
okay.
have lien for about
Yeah.
$400,000. But I called I don't remember the department name, and she say that if I fix, for example, if I own one of that house, if I fix everything, I only pay $200 or $250.
Right,
So if
yeah.
you see, everything have solution, but I need a solution on this town.
Exactly. Well, that's what we're trying to find is a
I know,
solution.
I know, and I appreciate it all the time that are coming here,
Yeah.
you know,
So,
giving me your time.
Ms. Fernandez, thank you for being gracious.
yes. So what are we gonna do?
I have no idea.
One is, I think we need to, I got an idea, I don't know if it's any good, but what we could do, let's talk with the fire department. That seems to be the sticking point right now. Charlie, he's got a lot of experience in that, so, but let them actually go, and maybe they have, find a way. Again, I think that it's too easy to say you can't get there from here without trying to, solve the problem. We got a problem. And the mayor's absolutely right. The liens, it's crazy. And I know every city.
Those guys would give it up for the liens, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
They're not gonna fight it.
Yeah, well, we don't wanna own it, but, particularly, we got a bunch of them, they're not even over there.
What I think is if that guy buy the house for a good deal, the city need put him to pay,
Well,
if the city can.
yeah.
And he may have gotten those not wanting to get them either, I mean,
Yeah.
there's situations where all of a sudden that lands in your lap and you're saying, I
Right.
got it, now what do I do with it? I mean, that could have happened to that guy and he
So,
could have said,
I don't remember his name.
Mr. Swain,
Let me ask you
Counselor
something.
Swain.
Yes, ma'am.
The owner can have the house with plywood on the window for years and years and not do nothing?
Plywood on the windows?
Yes.
You're not supposed to have plywood on the windows.
Do you see? And that house has all that. If
There's
they
all
don't
sorts of
take it
problems
and
out
fix
there.
it,
Yes.
every year and every day, the lien go be high. So who go to pay for this? I think it's something interesting for the city as well, because
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How much would you pay for your portion of the road?
I received a document for $10,000, and I think that is a minimum pay. I think that, the city can require on the owner of the house pay more than the owner of the land.
Right, but I'm
It's
just
something
saying,
that I think,
where are you comfortable, where do you think you're comfortable for your portion of the road paying?
20,000, 30,000. If they bring me a time for pay, I do it. I am flexible to solution this. It's better pay that than not living on the house, because I have more money on the house. I pay $35,000 for the house, and it's there close.
How far is it to her house, Mark? Did you say 600 feet?
I don't know.
About
No,
I look about 400 feet.
I understand that the people that don't have houses, building on the property, they need pay less.
Well, those lots, once you get those improved, those lots go from about
Yeah.
$500 to $800 of value.
Yeah, but the point
We
is.
found them in the
but
12 to
point is,
2,000 range, but.
One of the guys that have 4 properties there, he's waiting, because I think when he meet me, he know that I no go to stop. He's waiting. Yes, he have a company, a construction company or something like that.
Yeah.
You think that when I call his attention and I put everything there, he not going to put a new houses on the property? It's a good deal for everyone,
Is it feasible, Scott, just to lime rock to her, just past her house, and not do it the whole road?
Anything over 150 feet, you have to have a
Wasn't
cul-de-sac.
that the question
on it
we
for
explored
fire
last
department.
time?
Huh?
Whether or not we could, theoretically, I guess you could lime rock to just her house.
That's what I'm saying.
Line road for a street is good.
Just to her house. Make it fire truck proof.
But over 150 feet, they have to have a cul-de-sac.
I think you're gonna get a request shortly thereafter to extend that
Okay.
just a bit longer.
That's what I'm saying. I've rode the county, and there's county roads that the fire department service that doesn't.
That's why we live in the city.
That does not have cul-de-sacs, and they're dead-end roads.
Right.
So, that,
Line road is good material. It's
That's
usually
a
what they
rule,
use
not
for
a
base
law.
before putting the paving on the street. I tell you that because I'm working on that. You know, I have dump trucks. It's the job that I do. So I can bring you more info about that too. 18 yard is for each truck. So
Yeah.
if you tell me, you know, for example, I can see how many feet on the street is, and I can determine how many dump trucks, you know, I need use for feed the truck with that line.
right.
And it's something shipping.
If you'll recall, the estimate that I received to shell rock the entire road was about $60,000.
Yeah, well, I wasn't even talking about the whole road. I was asking, was it feasible just to get to her house?
As soon as we do that, one of the other property owners is gonna come back and say,
Why don't you do it
I'd love
tomorrow?
that.
you know,
Right.
extend another 100
Get your
feet.
butt
for
up
me.
here. All right.
So how do you do that for one person?
Well,
not
I'm
the other?
asking questions, Charlie. I'm trying to find the solution.
But I still think you run into that fire safety issue
Yeah,
with
that's
doing
a
that. I
huge
mean,
issue.
and maybe what we need to do is to say, okay, here's the cost, get a hard cost on the road.
I
We
think
kind of
we
been
did.
through this again.
I think we did.
Well, we got kind of a cost on it, with a
The
little
line
variance
rock is
in it.
Any
50,000,
cost,
a paved
any
road is
cost
about
on put
100. It
utility
would
on
be
the
cheaper
house, I
for
go to
us.
pay for that. Electric, water, whatever that I need pay for, put it, you know, all the utility that I need on the house, I go to pay for that because it's my part, you know.
Right, but what I'm saying is that we find out, I mean, get the cost and say, okay, this is what we're willing to absorb as a city. There was an error, and I'm not gonna say there was an error made by the city, but something wasn't right for those houses to be built without bonding the road out. So there's some culpability on our side of it, but find out where it is, to find out at what level you think we can go to. You know, we have to have a cul-de-sac on that property. Maybe we can talk to the property owner that owns property on the tail end of this thing and say, hey, we're gonna pave this and not assess your lots anything, if you give us room for a cul-de-sac, which saves some costs on that end of it. It's not, you know, 4,000 or 5,000, I think we had the estimate of what it was to purchase property. But maybe there's something that we can work out there that's gonna build value for, you know, if he's got any other lots on that road, on that property. Find out where everybody's comfortable, and if we're now down into the $60,000 range, maybe 70,000, and we can assess those properties, we just have to look at it in the future. You're gonna own those properties, you know, for, you know, this is how much you're gonna have for a house. If you're willing to pay 50,000, we'd do it tonight. But no, I mean, if you're willing to, whatever you're comfortable with, what you think is gonna be, and then assess the existing houses at some level, and the property owners, the remaining property owners, any other lots that are remaining on there at a much, it's gotta be a much lower level, cause that's, I mean, you can't punish a person from that standpoint.
Mhm.
The people that are gonna benefit are the ones that have the houses. But it may be where we may be in the $50,000-$60,000 range, which is much easier to swallow than it is at 120 or whatever the total cost with the attorney fees and everything else, so.
Wouldn't it just be cheaper for us to buy everybody out instead of putting the road in and have a field?
Yeah, but how much she gonna want for her house?
Well,
She may want 50 or 60,000
she
dollars.
paid 35 for it, so, I mean, literally, if you add all these up, you know, you're looking at $50,000 to buy everybody out if you give them their money back.
Some of them won't sell.
No.
I guarantee it.
Yeah, and a guy, I think, in the letter here, he wasn't gonna give up 2 lots for the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in his letter.
This
You know,
this is
it-
a tough one. It's just, there's no good answer.
Not a good citizen.
Well, I really personally don't feel it's fair to the taxpayers of the city to come in and bail out individual property owners that, again, maybe didn't do their due diligence to find out what they're purchasing.
Mhm.
And 19 out of the 20 of them don't much care.
Right.
And, you know, for the city to go in and spend $100,000 that they're not really gonna recover to put a paved road in there, just seems like it's not fair to the taxpayers.
Well, I'm not seeing us benefiting the other property owners at this point if we just get to her.
But again, as soon as you do for her, the next one down is gonna say, you gotta do for me.
Yeah,
How do
I'd
you
like to see 'em
justify
come up
not
and
doing
ask.
that?
Yes,
I'd like to
and
see
for
them
what
come
they
up
are
and
not
ask.
here at the same time than me, you
For
know, if they
20,000 we
receive
can
the
do it.
letter that the city sent and the call that the city, you know, make as well.
Well, I'm pretty sure she said she contributed 30,000. Did she say that?
Mm-hmm.
She did.
Yes, I do it. I sign right now if you say that you go to help me.
Good for you.
see,
You know,
That's serious
the
business.
bad thing is I got to try to find a job close to here, so every time that you have a meeting, I go be here. So try to help
But
me.
see, she's willing to,
No, I mean, obviously she's willing and
and it's just hard to
just
set.
has a good
And
attitude, so.
somewhere along the line, there was a mistake made that there wasn't a road bonded.
Well, but
You
There's
know,
water
all
over the
these
dam, we
houses-
just gotta find a solution.
every one of these properties were purchased after that whole incident
I
happened.
understand
So
that.
the people buying it knew what was going on, with the exception of her.
They knew,
Yeah,
should have known.
the guy
Should've
never
known.
told me
Yeah.
about this. And
Yeah.
you know something that
What
is,
is, it's a neighborhood of mistakes,
Right.
basically.
do you know something that is a little frustrated? The first time that I be here on this building, the lady that attend me, she never meet me before. She used to see a lady, a young lady, thanks for that to me. She say, you know, not spend your time. This is coming from 2008 and not have a solution. I say, for what she asked, you know, she bring me that answer. She never bring me the time to explain myself, and she don't know how many I have on my package for do this or no, you know. So I say no. I go to the meeting, and that day the other lady say that, you know, this city bring a meeting, and that was the first time that I be here. But I think many people coming here, and the first time go to the lady and poof, stop, no do nothing, no buy nothing, you know, no, because she not open the window to more information.
So we got a $50,000 estimate for Shell, approximately, right? 60,000. And then on top of that, we will need a fire hydrant. Because if we had a fire hydrant, then they could hose it in and not drive it in. Because Charlie said they could go 1,000 feet.
Yeah, but they need the truck
With the
within
truck.
200 feet
Oh,
of the
with
house.
the truck.
Yeah, you need the truck to lay that 1,000 feet of hose.
Okay,
Or in
so-
this case, 600 feet. You pick up the hydrant on the hard surface road.
Yeah.
You lay it in 600 feet, but that comes off the truck. You can't hand carry that.
Okay.
If you do,
Oh,
hose
So
is
that
gonna be
won't
gone.
work.
Whoever's in there's gone.
But if I pay 30,000 bucks, you can spray some little more, I say that,
Yeah.
to the rest of the owner,
Yeah,
you know?
so that's very good. Thank you for that. Just
How
had to
much-
figure out how to do it.
How much would it be to maintain a Shell Rock Road? Do you have any idea, Scott?
I don't know how often you have to replace the shell. I mean, I probably would say is if you're gonna go that far, you might as well just pave it. Because it, you know, it probably won't take that long before you're at the point of which you're gonna pay for the paving.
Yeah.
Won't won't they need a swift mud permit for that?
I mean, there's a whole permitting section here that, there's gonna be a permitting cost to do any of this.
Well, what was initially designed was a pond that now sits on at least one of the lots. So I think that's just an extra.
That's more money that needs to be spent.
You know, I know it's probably not a real popular thing, and you probably don't want to hear me say this, but I can't help but wonder if you shouldn't just take that $30,000, and we would love to have you in our city, honestly, but find that other property somewhere here and take that money and apply it to that, and realize that this was a costly mistake.
Yeah.
I know that's probably not what you want to hear at all.
I try to find the other owner. I try to find a way that they working with me, you know, but they are not interested. It's what I say, 20 bucks a year is easy to pay. They don't care.
And sometime in the future, maybe the landowner that has a number of these lots will come in and decide to do something with them.
If
Maybe
the
not, but-
and if the future is 20 more years,
Well,
I don't know, but that's, you know,
yeah, we need
I don't know,
to,
that seems to be,
we need to move
you
on.
know, some
listen,
other
it's
avenue.
easy for me put on sell the house the same that the other owner said to me, but it's something easy. and I don't want something easy to do, not these kind of things, because it's like putting trouble the other person to buy my house, and I don't want that.
Yeah, no, and you would
If
have
in the
to
future I
disclose
sell
to
my
them.
house, I want to sell the house that somebody can live in.
All right, well, Charlie, we need to move on, so
Yeah.
it's, request of motions, whatever council deems appropriate, so what does council wanna do?
I think it's gonna die for lack of a motion because we don't have a good answer.
Give her a trespass warning.
Huh?
I said, let her go, give her a trespass warning, we don't have to hear this again. You know, this is crazy. Can't get
Bad
there from here.
situation, it's very sad. But I don't have an answer for this.
Huh?
Why don't we ask,
No.
why don't we ask staff just to put these numbers back down that we know, I mean, we don't have it in order, pardon?
Engineering and permitting, 20,000.
I'm telling you, put it in, I like a visual thing,
Okay.
so I think maybe instruct staff to, after the meeting tonight, to stay till midnight and put this stuff together, but let's find out, let's see what this actual cost of this, the whole shoot and match to do the road or the shell, and if we can do a shell with the fire department, to go in to build a cul-de-sac, how do we get a cul-de-sac? We gotta purchase property, maybe we can get lots donated, who knows, But I mean, there's a point that I think we just have to look at this from an economic standpoint, that we know what the economics of this standpoint is. We've got some ballpark figures, but if we get some more hard and fast figures to say this is where it's at, and then we have to make an economic decision on this. It's an issue that was somewhat created by the city in the beginning, but everybody that got that property when they were building those houses is not owners of that property anymore.
Oh, I know that.
So anybody that got it after that either got it by default on something else, or they bought it.
I think the guy.
And that's where, that onus does not fall to us and somebody else, to correct somebody else's mistakes. I think if there's a way to find that we can help Ms. Fernandez out, I think we need to do it, but I think we've got to this becomes more of an economic informed decision to say, this is what we can do, this is where it's at, this is how we can recoup 50%, maybe 40% of our money, but at least we know that it's either gonna be $50,000 or it's gonna be $200,000 that we gotta put out, and if it's at 200, I mean, that's just, we're out of
I
whack.
don't think that that's
Yeah.
amount.
So
But that's,
So we need
we
a
talk in
motion.
general, so we just need
Somebody
to,
wanna make a motion for the staff to do that?
I'll make a motion that the staff review this in light of what the mayor said,
So
follow those
Yeah,
instructions.
that's what I need clarification on. So you want staff to get hard numbers of each category of what things are costing?
what the cost to put that road in from permitting to finish, so,
For the road.
correct.
Yes.
And both the asphalt and the shell rock, and if the shell rock we can use, if it's okay with the fire department on a shell rock road.
I think with the base thick enough it
Can
is.
Can you please review a little more, bring me more info about the responsibility on the owner of these houses?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
If you can find more information about the responsibility of these owners, the houses owner, because they have playboy on their window, and he said that they can, so found a way that put pressure on this owner to do something like me.
Well, the pressure on a couple of those owners, I think the code enforcement liens are probably worth more than what the building is completed. I'm sure they've been added up at
a bunch of
$100 a
those.
day, the guy with the plywood.
Yeah, he's getting fined, he's just not paying.
And the only way we can put pressure on
For
it is to
example,
foreclose on the
link.
house, but.
For example, Link. Can you
Right.
tell me a little more about Link? What kind of the responsibility
We
the
can-
owner have buy a house with Link and not pay any cents,
I don't know how much non-public information we can give on that. You can tell them when the lien was started and figure out. I'm not
For
sure
years
what
and
information.
years and years.
We need just to get with staff.
Yeah.
Let's
Scott can
finish
provide
this.
that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so,
And that
We
will come
gotta-
back to council? You want this to come back to council after staff has gotten all this figured? Then come back to council?
yeah, we need a second though.
I'll second.
Yes, Captain.
Just a quick comment on the motion and the second. I think we've been through this. I think staff's come up with numbers that are very much in the ballpark. I think it's decision time.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I feel like it's too convoluted, and I'd like to see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, exactly what it costs on one page so we can understand really what it is.
Right.
And I also think it'd be a good idea to talk with someone who builds roads, and a developer like Tal, or somebody who does this all the time, and get his opinion. He might know some nuances that we don't know in order to make this work.
Right. Any comments from the public? Or we're ready to move on? Kathy, will you poll the board?
Dutton, I guess he still can't hear. Ivy,
Yes.
Lawrence,
No.
I'm sorry, no?
No.
Okay. Stewart,
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Okay, moving right along here. Agenda, new business, agenda 10A, the Sebring Parkway modifications. Background, the Highlands County Board of County Commissioners solicited bids from the construction of Phase 2A and B of the Sebring Parkway, which will extend the parkway from Youth Care Lane to 27, including the bid we're following City Sebring Utility Department, Mr. Bogus and Mr. Langford.
Good evening.
Lay it on us.
This is a project that's been on the books for several years now, so I don't want to bore anybody with details that you may or may not already know, but does council have any questions about the infrastructure changes and upgrades we're trying to make? Is everybody pretty much on board with what we're trying to do?
Well, we're pretty much kind of forced into doing it, so.
Well, it makes sense, if we're gonna
Yeah.
do it, it makes sense to why this road's torn up and
Right,
everything's kind of. The thing that I think I would like to mention is that, as you all already know, this bid was a whole lot more than we anticipated. With the county, I understand that the county has agreed to pay half of what it's gonna take to relocate the existing gravity sewer line, which is a big help right there. But it still leaves us short about $715,000. And what I'd like to inform council tonight is that I've looked at our existing budget, and there's some projects that we did budget for that we're simply not gonna get to. So what I'd like to recommend is that we use some of that money, which accounts for about half of it, and then go into our fund balance for the remaining portion that we would need to fund this project. If that sounds like something council can support, I will prepare a budget amendment with a budget resolution and present that at our next council meeting.
Are we talking about part 6 here, the 209?
Yes, sir, that's the part that I think the county's gonna pay
Pay
half of it.
Now,
yes, sir.
where we come up short, 750 is
Well,
part 5?
what we did, Kurt, was we budgeted, I think it was 1.3 million for the entire
Okay,
water and
I
sewer
see.
project, and it turned out to be
Yeah,
quite
gotcha.
a bit more than that.
Yes.
So that was where the shortages came up from.
Okay.
But as you know, Mr. Langford's here. I don't know if you have any questions that you'd like to ask him. I'll turn the mic over to him if you would like to do so.
Just for clarification,
Yeah, it
it was
doesn't-
originally budgeted at 1.3, and then it's now come out to over 3.
Came over to 2.2? 1,
Yeah, 2.165.
Yeah, and I don't, the 1.3 budget was for, I'm gonna say the part 5 section.
That was, yes, sir, that was for the
So
part
for the
5.
part 5 section, which is the water main and sewer force main, that was we budgeted those dollars at 1.3. The bid came in at 1.865.
I see, okay.
The $300,000 auction is utility modifications to move the gravity sewer so that it is no longer in the roadway path, but now in the median. And the county approached us, and we agreed that that's something we should do. As you know, we have issues with that on, Lakeview and other portions of the parkway.
It also makes it easier to work on.
Yes. So, we've got an interlocal agreement here as well with the county to pay for half of that bid cost, if you will.
Half the $299.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And JD, if you wanna
Yep. First off, I want to say thank you for inviting me. I'm Jody Langford. I'm Assistant County Engineer. Also, I am the project manager and the engineer of record for the Sequin Parkway Phase 2A and 2B projects. I think this is really beneficial. I don't want to bore you guys with the details that you already know about. It's essentially going from youth care down to 27. I think it was great that the city wanted to get involved and partner on this. You're really going to save a lot of money, not only in mobilization and demobilization with the contractor by utilizing one contractor, but also with maintenance traffic is going to be a nightmare. So not necessarily with the utilities, but it's going to be a lot cheaper, obviously, than having to go back and rip up something that's already been there and so forth. So I think you guys are really doing a good job of actually doing the bid together. We did have 3 bidders, which I think you guys are aware of, and actually the lowest bidder turned out to be non-responsive and non-responsible, meaning that they didn't meet all the qualifications that they needed, which actually worked out to the benefit of the city, because the second lowest qualified bid actually had the most reasonable utility price. So, and like Scott was saying too, we broke it up into different bid forms just to make it as clean as possible. And like I said, we don't want to have a situation on phase 1, with the manhole, or similar to like on Lakeview, where it's just a maintenance nightmare. So the city was gracious enough to kind of look at it, and we were like, okay, let's chip in and try and help out and make this, a pretty easy transition. So I think it's going to be a lot better on you guys too, as far as maintenance costs and the overall. And with that, I'll open it up to any more questions or anything.
In the future, it will, if we have to do anything to it, repairs or anything, if it's not in the road, it's cheaper to fix and easier to
That's
get
correct.
to.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, we're shifting it over because right now it's more on the westerly side of the existing roadway, but there's so much going on there because there's a separate drainage system over there and so forth. So it's really just the cost of laterals, but it's going to be a lot easier, like I said, as far as maintenance. It's wide open on the east side, other than the water main and the force main improvements over there on that side. So yes, to answer your question, that's correct.
Also a lot safer. You're working in the road on the Parkway, for instance. You have to close lanes to service that.
Right.
It's pretty frightening out there sometimes.
And this paper says that most of the water mains out there are 60 years old.
Yeah, that particular, the system was built kind of not all at one time. It's kind of one of those
Right.
things that you just keep adding to. And this will give us the opportunity to basically replace all the old stuff, all new PVC pipe, and HDPE in some sections.
Right.
But it'll certainly give us the opportunity to provide better service. The hospital down there is, for instance, much better service and more reliable service to the
Right.
hospital too. A lot of benefits to doing.
Anybody
I
got
make
any?
a motion that we approve staff recommendation as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second.
Let me point out to council the interlocal agreement that you saw in your agenda packet is essentially the same as what the county approved this morning. The county's version that they approved said they would pay for half of the bid amount, and if they're so leaving any cost overruns to the city, but they said they'd be glad to hear from us if there was a change order that was needed for something that was unrelated to the line itself. It was something road work or something having to do with the road or some other aspect of the project that necessitated the change order. They could see sharing in the cost of that change order if one's to come.
Okay. Okay. Charlie, you're gonna include what Bobby said about the change order on monies from last year to help put in to help pay for our $700,000.
Approve staff recommendation as presented.
Okay. And that was brought up tonight, though, not in here.
You'll have to come
We'll
back
have-
in.
Okay.
We'll have to
Okay.
come back to council with that.
Okay, all right. Any questions from the audience or comments? Kathy, poll the board.
Ivy,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 10B is the settlement agreement with Beverly Branham. I'm gonna turn that over to Mr. Swain.
Attempted to detail out the background of the lawsuit regarding code enforcement lien at 1232 Kakalani Avenue. I won't read the agenda item summary to you. What is proposed is that the city, if the city will not pursue Mrs. Branham for any, we'll call it deficiency, between the amount of the property, she's willing to give the property up as long as we don't chase her for the balance of the money elsewhere.
All right.
That's a win.
I would encourage council to agree to the settlement agreement.
I'll make a motion, we approve the attached settlement agreement as presented by Council Green.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the audience? Kathy, poll the board.
Ivy,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Okay, item number 10C, offer to purchase city's position in the action against Beverly Branham. Mr. Rhodes, come up.
Thank you, council members and mayor. Cliff Rhodes, representing Brenda Kelly, who is sitting here with us this evening. I first want to commend Bobby Swain and also Scott for their work in helping Brenda get to where she is this evening. This is related to the last agenda item that you just heard and approved. My client is interested in buying by assignment the city's position in the lawsuit against Ms. Branham, as well as the underlying code enforcement liens and all interest that the city may have with this case. I think it's obvious between the lines is the idea that Ms. Kelly would like to own this property. There's issues associated with the litigation, including the owner herself and the county having a subordinate lien, which if we're successful, those would be wiped out, eliminated, and then hopefully Ms. Kelly would buy the property on the courthouse steps. I don't know if council members have my letter of some days ago. In there I kind of outlined what we're looking for. I should add that we're specifically looking for an assignment of those particular, and there's 4 code enforcement liens that are in favor of the city. I should tell you a little bit about Ms. Kelly. While she currently does not live in the city, she wants to. She lives in Highlands County out in the Country Club of Sebring. She owns property on Miko, which is a residence, and her plans are to live right here in beautiful Sebring within the city limits. With that, our offer is $13,000. That's our offer for the position of the city, and hopefully council will approve that request. We do have there's Ms. Kelly is a real estate agent. She's sought out some comparative sales. There's not a lot in that area, but we do have several to offer, and we think that offer is well within reason given the environment that we're in. Any questions for myself? I'm here to answer them.
Councilman?
We don't want any more land or houses or anything.
And I think that's pretty fair offer for that property too. I looked at the lot next to my house to purchase that, and I couldn't find comps that would substantiate what they want to offer, so.
Well, I don't have a question per se, but in order for us to get at least a little bit of our money back, I would like to maybe let council consider counteroffer of our legal fees at any rate at $15,397.46. What do the other council members think?
what was that figure again, Charlie?
I
What did you
think-
say?
$15,397.46, which is our legal fees for.
Would you
lawsuit.
be willing to buy 20 lots with 5 homes on them?
I don't think we're interested in that. No offense to the city.
No road, but
I did see it, is it the Clay Road out there?
That's all that's there.
That's all that's there.
Yeah. Well, what's the council wanna do?
is that net to us, Cliff?
The 13 be net to you, and we've learned recently there's a delinquent tax bill to pay, so we're gonna have to meet that burden on this
So
problem.
we'll get a check for 13. You'll pay all costs.
Yes.
So that would probably make up the difference.
Yeah, I
with
think we
what
should
was
take it and
saying and
run.
that. So I'll make a motion that we accept that offer.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the audience?
Thank you. I'm gonna build a beautiful house.
They haven't approved it yet, so you have to wait.
I have a
There's
question.
gotta be a vote yet.
We have a question.
Mr. Rhodes, does it need to say, does the motion need to say all 4 of these little thingies? Or just does the motion need to include all, you just mentioned these 4 items, does it
Yes,
need to
I
say?
think to be safe, we probably ought to include that
Include all 4
as a
items?
condition, as well as specific, yeah, there we go. I should report that Mr. Swain and I have traded drafts of an assignment agreement. That may be what he's showing to
Yes, sir.
Kathy. In other words, we would request that I think to be safe, yes, with the letter, specifically the 4 liens themselves, with agreement, an assignment substantially similar to what you're looking at, Kathy.
Okay, so we would need to also,
She's referring to the contingencies that you
Yes.
spelled out in your letter.
Yeah, and frankly, do you have copies of mine?
I can give it to you.
I may have a copy here.
So, I think you certainly want to reference the 4 liens that
Oh,
are
yeah, I do.
in the assignment of cause of action document. That
so
they're-
are these things in this thing right here?
They would like the
Well-
city to enter into this assignment of cause of action that
Yes,
we
sir.
are passing out, that memorializes the concept of selling them the city's position in the lawsuit and the underlying liens.
Thank you.
But does this say $13,000?
13.
What does that say?
So,
right
No,
here?
there's no.
The 4 conditions are, item 1 is a tender of 13,000. Item 2 is your approval of the settlement agreement with Ms. Branham, which you just did. So those 2 are essentially accomplished if the city council agrees to this proposal at large. The 3rd item is the assignment itself in the form that your council and I have
This right here.
we've worked
Okay.
on this afternoon and is certainly acceptable to me. And I think Bobby can weigh in on
Yes, sir.
on that. 4 is a representation, which is in that assignment agreement. It's a representation by the city that the city has not assigned these liens to anyone else. It's basically what tantamount to a warranty of title. And we would want the city's cooperation with the execution of appropriate affidavits as we move, and it would probably amount to 2 affidavits, maybe 3, as to your hard cost and including fees and court costs. We're thinking your out-of-pocket damages, including attorney's fees, exceed twice the underlying demolition cost. And so we're looking for a number like that for purposes of the judgment, just so we're safe as we bid on the courthouse steps, if that makes any sense.
You want a huge credit bid.
We want a credit bid. And we think we're at 30 if we can get there plus with these taxes that we're about to pay.
If council would like a motion to approve the assignment of cause of action that I've just handed out, will accomplish that which Mr. Rhodes seeks on behalf of his client.
Because we have a motion on the floor just for the 13,000, so do we need to do away with that bid? I mean, that motion, and then redo it to say 13,000 plus this
We would want
assignment?
13 plus. This document doesn't reference the
fees.
dollars, so we want the dollars now. And to catch council up on this has been a bit of an evolving issue, but the thought is that she will gather her 13,000 here in due course, and I would hold the signed assignment in escrow until they have the money. When they have that, they get the assignment, and
Off we go.
off they go.
And the city has no more cost.
Correct. So a motion to, if you were so inclined, to add the approval of this document to the motion approving the $13,000 offer.
And I have several, I don't know if, Bobby, you were circulating the assignment itself?
Yes, sir.
I have 5 or 6
Yeah.
copies. Okay.
Okay. I'll amend my motion to approve the tax settlement agreement as presented and include the assignment of cause of action with it.
I'll second that.
Okay. You got it, Kathy?
I do. I do.
Well, I just kind of seen that funny look.
You see
Okay.
that every once in a while, yes.
Okay, we have a
I got it.
motion and a second. Do we have any comments from the audience? Any more comments from council? Hold the board, please.
Ivy,
Yes.
Lawrence.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes.
Thank you,
Now you
council. Can I mention something totally off topic? Would the city consider entertaining, corresponding with the governor about opening Highlands Hammock State Park for camping purposes?
Wouldn't that be
I'm
nice?
not at all familiar with, I know it's open for day use, I think it is, but for camping purposes, I just don't see any reason that this park and maybe others should be closed for camping. That's me just talking. I think it would help the city, if it were open. Otherwise, it's not my business.
For another 13,000, we'll do whatever you want.
I think that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Good luck on your new home.
See ya.
Okay, moving right along to, item number 10D, discussion of city metal siding codes. Mr. Gorley has requested to be on council agenda to discuss the city's metal siding code. Please find attachment A1, section 26-183 of the city code of ordinance regulating prohibiting materials. Mr. Gorley's property for the purpose of building is zone C. Mr. Gorley.
Thank you.
I'm Jeff Gorley. I own a business here in Sebring. I own a property at 326 Maple Avenue, and I want to put up a building there, and I know that the city has some codes for or against metal buildings. So I went ahead and designed one anyway, and I wanted to run it through the CRA because I'm located in kind of an industrial type area. I'm not really in a historic area where you want buildings to look like similar buildings built back whenever and so forth. And the property that I own, first of all, the CRA turned it down, and I just found that out. And they said if I stucco the building, which kind of defeats the purpose, but and it has a pretty good cost to it. And if I stucco the facade, the way the law reads, that they would approve that. Well, then I asked the question of what is a facade? I looked it up in Webster's dictionary, and it generally occurs, as the front of a building. And she had said, no, it's going to be the whole building. So that's not going to be cost prohibitive for me to do that where I'm at. Anyway, the pictures I just showed you, I owned a brown building there on the right. That's on Maple Avenue, 316, and I bought the property behind it, that house there, and I tore it down. The next page is what it looks like now, page 2. that's where I wanted to put the building. So I got rid of this house here, which I could have rented out and added to the troubles that we already have downtown Sebring, but I didn't want to do that, and I wouldn't do it. But I bought it with the intention of putting a building right here. This is another property I own on Lime Street, next to the current metal building that you see to the right of it on page 3. I bought that and I tore that down. And that's page 4 is kind of what it looks like now where it was. So I've taken care of 2 dilapidated houses downtown. Page 5 is also what it looks like now next to the metal building to the right of it. And page 6 is looking from the property where I want to build this building across the lot, a half acre that I own there, over towards another metal building that's already there. Page 7 is the metal building that's there. It's a nice looking building. And down where there's a lot of dilapidated and vacant buildings. Page 8 is a row of 3 metal buildings there that look, to me, really nice. Page 9 is the property that I own where I tore that second house down. I'm looking at a garage where somebody's living in it, should be living in it, and a condemned house that should have been tore down a long time ago. Page 10 is looking right down to the end of the street. Some of the nice looking buildings we've got down there. It's just, you know, some, and I think the city actually owns some over to the other side. They look okay though, but there's a big water building there. Page 11 is a metal building down at the end of my street that's currently vacant, and they made them side it, and that's what happens to siding when you put it on a metal building. Vinyl siding blows off eventually. Page 12 is looking out my front door at my current establishment and looking at 2 houses that I would be proud to have a metal building there rather than those houses. That calls, we get a couple emergency calls there every week. Page 13, somebody asked me from the CRA, well, we're concerned about what they're going to look like down the road. Well, there you go. Page 13, another vacant building, roof falling in, just, you know, should be tore down. I think she bought it for $1. Page 14 is the building I wanted to put on my vacant building. I put wainscoting across the front of it, and I actually built one of these at my personal house. It's good enough for me at my personal house. I would hope it would be good enough for the city and the current area that I am located. And that's where I'm at. And I just think that certain areas of the city probably should have some kind of codes where you just can't slap up a metal building. This thing happened, I think, back in 2006, John, maybe you know, 2007, where somebody was putting up some metal buildings in areas where they shouldn't have been. Then that's when the city had created this code. I am down, like I'm saying, down near the water department, down near a mechanic shop. I could look out the other side, there's a garage right there. I actually think I would be benefiting the area and raising your taxes, property taxes in the area. So I don't know. I don't know if you need to revisit it or what. Something I think the city should have been looking at for a long time.
I think, Jeff, you're right. Back in, I think it was the early 2000s when they did it, it was all of a sudden we had a plethora of metal building permits, I think, that were starting to pop up. And it was the intent of the city at that time to say, okay, if you want a metal building, you need to be in, I think, C2 and I1 or something like that, and PU.
I'm in C1, it should be C2.
Yeah.
But my personal opinion is, I mean, you look at the Necessaway and some of these other buildings around town, I would put a metal building up right between them and make the front of the building look nice. And I think it would be a huge benefit, you know, to this, you know, city of Sebring, instead of trying to piecemeal that place together. I mean, I mean, we want to keep the integrity, I know, of downtown, the historic area. But I think there's areas where
I think that the biggest issue I see with this, Jeff, and is that if we allow an exception on this one,
oh, I agree.
It opens up a can of worms for the rest of it. So I don't
Kinda
know
like
if we rezone you C2, you'll be in a better shape.
Yeah.
But then you can do it. But I think that's the reason. And you can, you know, the Family Dollar store up on the corner here, you know, on the Parkway in Ridgewood, that was going to be it is a metal building, but they had to skin it. And then the new Dollar General, which, you know, we just have a ton of Dollar Generals flying up around here with the metal structures and that stuff. The one on Home Avenue and Parkway, well, they had to skin that one also because it's in the city. But
Yeah, they're also on a major thoroughfare too.
Right,
And I'm
right.
not. I'm down
Right.
in an industrial part of town.
David, you have something to say?
David Liddell, Chair of the Sebring CRA. As you know, the mission of the Sebring CRA is to bring about economic revitalization in our district. This is done in partnership between the CRA, the city, investors, and business owners. Over the course of the CRA's existence, we have developed standards, guidelines, and policies to help us improve the district. This is done so that we can make a positive economic impact on the downtown district. Design review is a critical component for achieving the redevelopment mission. When property owners wish to build new structures or change existing structures, the CRA is tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that the proposed construction meets the vision of the downtown area. The board is not concerned with what type of structure the property owner chooses to use, but we are concerned with what it would look like at completion. We have several areas in the district that have blight. One of the worst areas is between North Ridgewood and Park Street. Improving this area will take time, and as this area transitions, it's important that we continue to adhere to the design standards. If we sacrifice these standards, the amount of time it will take to expunge the blight will only take longer. We have required property owners to make changes to their proposed designs in the past and did not meet our standards. You might be familiar with the ice machine that is located at the Save-A-Lot Shopping Center on Lakeview Drive and Kenilworth Boulevard. Originally, that was a simple metal sided building. Excuse me. We worked with that investor to construct a machine that blended with the property and was aesthetically pleasing. We also made requests to the Family Dollar that was built on the corner of North Ridgewood and the Parkway. As a board, we do not oppose the material or structure that is created. We are opposed to any building that does not have siding or stucco, transition spacing, exterior features that create a building that is an improvement to the district. Being mindful of the impact that the existing standards have is an important part of the process to bring about economic revitalization. The design review process is a tool to ensure that property owners add value to the district. As a downtown business owner, I've been through this process and it was not intrusive, laborsome, or prohibited to my office renovation. As the chair of the Sebring CRA board, we ask that Mr. Gooley follow the procedure that's in place and comply with the CRA's design review guidelines and devise a plan to reface the building.
Okay, reface, to me, that sounds like the front of the building, but anyway. If you don't think that I've improved the downtown area, take a look at these houses.
I don't think anybody's, I think we all agree you're doing that. Good
Okay,
job.
all right, so, I'm just telling you, you know, if you want city to grow, you know, I have a rental space down there out of the other metal building that I'm having to rent to store equipment. If you don't, I'm gonna have to look at other options, possibly even moving somewhere else. I mean, that's just, Avon Park allows it, and City of Lake Placid allows it. They're more business friendly. I'm asking you to be business friendly. I've got 20 employees. I've invested a lot of time and money in Sebring. And I don't think I'm asking too much in the area where I'm at to look up my front door and look at the other metal buildings that are there.
Right.
And so I'm not arguing with him as far as about the code. I'm asking you to revisit it, take a look at it, maybe use exceptions in different areas where it would be more feasible than on Ridgewood or where his office is.
Right.
You know, and you talk about going back. We had impact fees several years ago, and I don't know what that did. Did people come back and ask for their money back?
So there's no doubt that he's in an area where there's an abundance of metal buildings already without the facade done. And there's also no doubt that he has cleaned up the neighborhood. And there's also no doubt that he is a upstanding member of our community and supports a large tax base. But this is our code. So I think it happened in 2008, by the way. I think it was, wasn't it 2008 when the metal building facade thing happened, which was like right at the peak of the craziness, you know, where people were building like everywhere. And then the next year it crashed.
Yeah.
And I completely agree that this is an appropriate means of building when you're on the main thoroughfare like Ridgewood Drive or in a historic area. That particular area is, as the pictures have shown us, is far from that. His building is very well maintained. I drove by this afternoon. I'm sure you guys did the same thing. And it's an asset to the community. Having said that, I don't think that we should make an exception for one person. Okay, well, let me finish, okay? And calm down. It's all good. We're your friends, okay? Seriously. So I think a discussion is what we need to have on a way to be equitable in a circumstance like this, where I think it's beneficial for the city what he's trying to do. And there are financial constraints to building, a block building with stucco as opposed to a metal building. A metal building is much more economical. And when you're in business, you're looking at that dollar. At the same time, it's still a nice looking building. So it already has been mentioned this evening about a possibility of rezoning to a C2 zoning. And is that a possibility to do?
He could approach planning and zoning to rezone to C2.
Yeah, and in a C2, he would allow to be able to do that, right?
And I don't think that he's, too far out of the, the zoning, because there's a zoning map attached to the zoning map, and there are other C2 properties around.
Yeah.
So I don't think it puts in, we'd be necessarily doing spot zoning if that was the case.
Okay, so that's a good answer. So I think that's a possibility. I'm not sure how the CRA feels about it. Probably negatively, because they're looking at a larger picture, and it's not only a larger picture, but it's a long-term view. But you ripped down those houses that were long-term bad. So there's a balance somewhere, and I'm just not exactly sure where to go. And I'm thinking maybe that the way to do this would be to pursue a zoning change.
Would it have made a difference if I came up here and I had the house there and say, I'll tear this down if you let me build this building?
Maybe. I mean, that's just real, maybe.
They can't make a site-specific
Right.
exception.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. They could consider, and ultimately a rezone. They could consider creating some form of overlay type zoning that allows it to be in C1 in certain areas of the city. I don't know that the policy behind that is what y'all want to have, but there are ways to get it done. But they can't just say, okay, never mind, you're good. You can go on ahead.
One of the things I saw in this packet that I got from the city was that they said that you can put a metal building up if you make it look like aluminum siding. Does that make sense?
It's it's kind of like that's how you figure out what that means. It's like whoever is reading it may have a different interpretation of those verbiage. So because a metal building is metal siding.
Right. Well, they wanted to look like aluminum siding.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, who wants aluminum siding? Actually.
That's where I was going.
So, but that was done during that time frame when it was the Wild West, really, and the city was trying to stem those type of projects from happening with the long-term view in mind. The long-term.
Well, one of the things I'm noticing is some of the long-term buildings that's been here are falling apart.
Well, that's no doubt. Yeah.
So what's the difference? I mean, other than it's maintenance.
Yeah.
It's maintenance. So I mean, I don't care what building you build. If you maintain it, it's going to look good.
Right.
If you need a paint job, you paint it.
Right.
If you got a hole in the side of a metal building, you repair it. If stucco's falling off a block building, you fix it.
Yeah.
Well, the area it's in, and it's already got a bunch of metal buildings
Everywhere.
there. I mean, that area is just kind of.
It's not ever going to be a historic district.
No.
It's not going to happen.
No.
You know, the historic district there, I bought that from Mr. O.A. Taylor back in, I don't know when. They used to sell cattle on it.
Right.
Downtown. That was the cattle exchange in Seaford.
Right.
So, and we put cows back there.
So what?
Take it back to historic.
Yeah, we're not gonna let you sell cows there.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, we don't want to lose you out of the city of Sebring.
Well,
we are friendly to business people, and we want to be that way. So we just need to fix this And I'm sure CRA can work with us somehow, some way. They're back there shaking their head, so.
Are they?
Just not up and down.
Which way?
Yeah.
Kelly is.
Yeah, no. Kelly was doing this, now
Yeah.
she's doing the roundy
I
round.
think
so.
that, I think if somehow you work to get a zoning change, that it would be appropriate still to fix the front entrance of the building.
I
And-
had no
and-
problem
yeah.
fixing the front of it.
So it's like
I would've
presentable.
stuck with it,
Yeah.
and it's like an extra $6,000 just
Yeah.
to stuck with the front of the metal building. If I had to do the
That's-
whole building, it'd been
$6,000
$25,000-$30,000.
is one air conditioning system, so.
Wow.
It's two for you.
Oh. Okay, I got that, thank you.
So, we need some kind of,
Well, let me ask you a question. Could we change our ordinance to where it is just the front of the building and not the whole thing?
So that may not work if it's on Ridgewood Drive.
Yeah.
It may not be,
Or
or
the-
say
the
if it's
Dollar
on the
General.
circle, say somebody wants to put a metal building up on the circle. That's exactly what you don't want.
C1 is, there are a lot of C1 zone properties, so this could be literally all over town. Without regard to the CRA district, it could be everywhere there's a C1 zoning. Which I think maybe the answer is, let's bring back some information to you for you all to look at, get the scope of what all C1 is, options on perhaps rezone or
Or
anything else that,
meanwhile,
Yeah.
he may want to go to the zoning board and ask for the C2.
I mean, that's a possibility, or some type of overlay. And, I mean, if he's asking just for C2 for his property, then, that's what other folks are gonna come in and ask, and my question's gonna be is, now are you gonna want lots of items down here, or, lots of properties down here rezoned to C2, because C2 permits, maybe some uses that you do not want down there.
right.
Potentially. So I might have a recommendation that we come back with some type of overlay district that, you can place on all of these properties down here that allows them to, maybe do some of these things.
So we probably should work with the
So
CRA on that.
I would talk
Right.
to Jennifer with Central Florida Regional Planning Council, and then, also CRA.
Yeah, yeah. So let's work on it for a while, Jeff.
Okay, I'm
So
fine.
we're,
I'm not-
so,
it's not
you know,
earth-shattering.
you feel how we are, that
Mhm.
we're trying to help and want to do the right thing, but at the same time, we have to maintain standards in the city of Sebring.
There's no sidewalk there, there'll never be a storefront there. I am trying to design my building, and it's gonna be just a storage warehouse for AC equipment.
Yeah, I got
Okay,
that.
and I'm trying to make it look like, if somebody wants to put an office in it down the road or
Yeah.
something, at least it would be feasible and look nice.
Mhm.
That's what
I think when you build, you gotta put a sidewalk in, though, don't you?
well, in Jackson.
It goes nowhere. I just
In
have
Tony,
to-
you have to.
I'm just gonna say, I have a hard time when you have metal buildings in that neighborhood. I have a hard time just saying to the new guy, you
Yeah,
can't put one.
yeah.
Right.
Well, it's already, it's a done deal, though. And I've built buildings in this area
Right.
where I've had to do it. And many other people have done the same thing. And I'm not talking just the front, but the entire building. So what do you say to those people that have already paid the price?
Yeah.
So there's both sides of this story.
Well-
So we just need to be logical and reasonable and talk about it and try to come up with something that works.
I think if it's on a main drag, it would be, I could understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. My building's a metal building and I only have the front done.
Looks nice too.
It looks wonderful.
Looks a lot better when
So you go around the side.
Yeah, but don't go around
Yeah,
back.
but we see the side of them when we're driving down the road.
Yeah.
You should have done the side too.
Yeah, well, I'm not in the CRA district.
Okay, so what we're gonna do with this is Scott, you're gonna get some information from Jennifer and CRA, so we'll bring it back to council. You'll get on, okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All righty. By the way, Mark, this is not gonna be a 15-minute.
I know. You blew that already, didn't you?
I didn't blow it. Okay, we're going to E, 10E. Penny's here, accounting for health insurance fund loss. We don't like to hear that word, loss.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
I don't like to say it. But we're in in the second year. Our health insurance committee met last week on the 12th, and we discussed these loss in the health insurance fund. And we've got some options going forward that we are going to research to make changes to our plan. We've been hit with lots of high claims for the past 2 years, and we've hit our spec limit, which is evident in the numbers. So this past year, we're showing about a $600,000 loss. The recommendation was to fund that loss so that we can bring our balance back up closer to the $1 million that we had agreed that we would maintain in that fund, or at least try to maintain in that fund. And then we are going to make changes in the health insurance plan for the next year.
What does that mean? Because right now, you know, the terminology has always been Cadillac. Are you gonna bring it down to like
Mercedes.
Buick? Or
We're looking at different options. There's gonna have to be some funding on whether it's the city's funding in conjunction with the employee dependent coverage, something, we're probably gonna see increases. Our employees currently to date do not share in any of that cost, and an option may very well be that the employee will be sharing in that cost. Dependent coverage costs will increase.
right,
And
out of necessity.
Yeah, we're
Absolutely.
just gonna have to explore some different options out
Yeah.
there, because changing deductibles doesn't have as big a
Yeah, I
difference
appreciate that.
as you might think. So
Sure.
we've got to explore
Yeah.
maybe, you know, some more options, like, you know, having a clinic that, you know, all of our employees go to a specific clinic as opposed to, you know, their own doctors, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
As a potential option. So those are things that we're just gonna have to explore to see if we can get our costs down.
our
I'd like to
TPAs, sorry.
Also suggest some type of, what I'm gonna call a wellness program. For instance, gym membership is a couple $100 a year, and if that can get some people, let's just say in the proper weight range or something to that effect, that can be way more beneficial to the employee as well as our health insurance fund.
And I think that they did have that was a benefit years ago.
That's a good idea.
I would much rather spend $200 to make sure, you know, and of course, it's not something you can force them, but if you give them the option, a lot of people may do that.
Right.
And,
Well, you just, I mean, you can, and, I mean, this has been talked about before, is that, I mean, there's a wellness option that if you, and it includes like smoking and that stuff, if you wanna choose to smoke, then you're gonna pay.
yeah.
You know, this category of person has to pay. If you're not gonna participate in getting healthy,
Right.
or being healthy, then you pay a higher, either you pay a higher premium or a higher deductible or something, so there are ways to look at it.
Maybe,
And that's kind
those
of,
are the guys we should be charging the premium to.
exactly.
Is that-
And, so, but I mean, there's a lot of discussion that was, looked at the plan and to see where, how we can kind of, because it has become just a,
Yeah, it's too much.
it's an incentive to get sick because
Yeah.
of deductibles and everything else, you know?
Okay.
We've just had unfortunate cases that we thought that it
Couple of
was a
years.
one-time
Yeah.
thing, and it's, you know, progressed into.
And our employee population's getting older, so.
Yeah,
you know.
right, all this in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
Is, do you have any kind of an, average age of our employees or anything like that, that we are, you know, some kind of a graph that we're getting older?
I don't, but I.
It helps to calculate that.
Absolutely.
seriously.
I don't, but I'm sure that we have something.
Yeah. Because if we are continually, I mean, let's just say getting older, then we can expect our costs to rise in the future. Whereas if we're hiring new people, I know like on our fire department, police department, for instance, we're starting to hire younger people. So that should bring that average down because they don't need that same thing, but except for maybe maternity.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at different options, and we're looking at the school board. I'm gonna reach out to them. I've had conversations in the past with them, and maybe take take advantage of some of what they've learned, their lessons learned. We're finding that there's groups of our coverage that spouses and dependents that are taking a toll on them.
Yeah.
Fund.
Well said, here maybe higher, so.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the Health Insurance Committee recommendation to allocate the fund year, 18-19 loss proportionally to the contributing funds department.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. We have
Be a resident second over here.
Thank you.
we have a motion and a second. Is there any comments from the audience? No comments, no other concerns for the council? Poll the board, please.
Ivy,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Carter.
Yes. Okay, we're going to 10F. Request for conceptual approval to rezone First Methodist Church property from R3 to C1. Mr. McClure? Oh, we're gonna have the mayor.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Good evening.
Obviously, I'm not John McClure, and I don't play him on TV as well. But anyway, I'm glad to be here. Y'all really look good. I see nothing's really changed. The taxes are high. The roads needs fixing. There's not enough money. Nothing's changed. Okay, so anyway, but I'm here along with our pastor, Reverend David Giuliano from the First United Methodist Church. Obviously, we're a church on the corner here of Center and Center Street, Pine Street. Been there for over 100 years, and we're not going anywhere. And so we have had a request, and you have the report email from John McClure that's got Nate Lick about the overall view picture of what's going on here. We have had a request from the South Florida State College to utilize some of our educational wing of our building for their adult training classes. Now, they've been at the Teachridge building there behind the middle school for many, many years, but that building has ceased to be, I think, safe issues and some other issues with it, and they can no longer utilize that, and so they're being asked, they're leaving that building, and there's a reverter clause in that says if you don't use it for that anymore, that it's going to revert back to the school system. I think that's right. But anyway, regardless of that, they need to be out of there, and they have came to us earlier really last fall, and we began working together on our facility that would meet their accommodation needs for adult training classes. These classes would be in the daytime, some maybe in the evening, but pretty much full bore, basically the same thing they've been doing at the Teachridge. Well, we got the leases all worked out, and the attorneys went through all of that, and then lo and behold, we found out that it really wasn't zoned right. Have I heard zoning tonight yet? Okay, well, here we go again. We currently are zoned R3, which does not allow for education, which is kind of interesting to me because back up in the 1960s, we actually ran a kindergarten in our school for many years. My children went there. I have no idea what the zoning was then. Nobody seemed to complain if we weren't in compliance, but regardless of that, here we are today with all of that. We also want to appeal to you to take a look at the neighborhood, and you have the map, of course. I think that you're looking at that, this multiple map that shows the zoning in the area. Obviously, the Baptist Church across the street is C1, and right across the street from us is a whole lot of education going on. So it kind of makes sense to us that we're not going anywhere. We're not going to be selling the property and opening up a car lot there. We have no idea that we're going to go anywhere in the future, and so we certainly hope not. So the college will make the renovated changes to our building classrooms that are there, and we'll also, of course, have to do that to code. Our section of the building does not have an elevator in it, but we do have a classroom downstairs if they have issues with disabilities, that somebody can utilize a standard one-floor building, and we also have restrooms in another section of the building that are code compliant with that. So we think we can make all this work very well, and I think the city, the word to John was, well, the city would kind of like to take a look at this before we start through some formal plan to get it rezoned, of application for that, and have you think about it a bit to see if it kind of fits the idea reasonable to you. We certainly hope so. That's kind of the big overview of the whole thing. I think there's a possibility you could say, well, maybe we could do a conditional use in R3, but then that ends up being every time you want to change it something, you got to go through that again, you know, as I understand it. So that may not be a reasonable step. It seems the most reasonable step to us, of course, is that you do allow us to do to a C1 zoning, and we would be kind of like the rest of the across the street neighborhood and all the areas to the west of us there. Certainly we're surrounded with R3, R1, and those are all R3, actually R3 and R1, and that's all residential, and those houses are still there. You know, our church has been city friendly in a lot of respects, we think. We supported, about 3 or 4 years ago, we supported the building of a Habitat house a couple of doors over from the street that we had inherited a lot. Somebody left us a lot on Pine Street, and so we worked together with Habitat and built a nice home there with that, and that house is nicely occupied. And we think that we're good neighbors. So I'm appealing to you to give us a consideration to allow us to change to C1 zoning, and here to answer any questions that you may have. And I might like to throw out the point that somebody said, well, we are operating a coffee ministry. Perhaps you know about that. We brew a strangely warm coffee. Strangely warm comes from the fact that John Wesley's heart was strangely warmed at Altargate, and he felt the Spirit of the Lord come to him. And so we operate this coffee ministry under the name of Strangely Warm, and we've been going out to the schools, some of the schools, and once a week, and delivering coffee to the teachers. We sell it to people that want to buy it. We sell it maybe to some restaurants. Anybody wants to buy it. I would have brought you a basket of our coffee tonight, but probably would not have been a good thing to do, since your attorney would say you can't take that. Anyway, maybe on another day. But anyway, so the coffee brewing goes. We have that set up according to code in our building, and the proceeds from that really goes to ministry. And we are supporting. Our church is currently supporting Allison's Hope Haven in Tunisia, and for an orphanage. And we also are very actively working with the Leslie Beam for the homeless little homes that are going to be built out on Douglas Avenue, along with a lot of other churches that are participating in that. So we think we're good neighbors. So that's my appeal. We'd like to have your consideration to change the zoning. And I think this is just sort of a preliminary information to you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This is sort of to get things started and lined up meetings and that stuff.
Whatever we need to do to go through that. I'm sure there's some costs in that. Planning and zoning has to go through that. So
Yeah.
City council has to have a couple of readings on it, I think. So if I recall, so that's us.
Yeah.
So it sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's strange to me that the Baptist church is C1 and y'all are R3.
Baptist is downtown. They're more of a midtown church.
Is that what it is?
That's what I was gonna
What
say.
was that, Bob?
I said the Baptist church is downtown and you're more of midtown.
Oh, okay.
So there's a pretty good
that's
difference
about
there.
80 feet or so, 100 feet of difference. Plus your city clerk's a member there, so that's probably, she probably
Hey, there's
got
some
that
other
fixed.
members in
She
this
probably got that fixed a long time
congregation
ago.
right here.
Long time ago, anyway.
Well, I would just like to say that I do think you guys are great neighbors.
Thank you.
I think that everything you're doing certainly falls within the realm of good use for what you're doing there.
I think it's a good idea.
If the consent, oh, excuse me, Kurt, go ahead.
I just wanted to say right off the bat, I work for South Florida State College, so I'm gonna have to abstain
Oh,
from any of this. So.
okay. Oh, all
Just to
right.
let you know.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah. But, you're a friend of court, though, right? A friend of court. Okay.
We don't need no motion or nothing.
I think that the
Yeah, we
issue
do.
is just a general consensus. You think it's okay for us to proceed with a zoning application? Is that-
We're
is
gonna
that
make
okay?
we'll make a motion for that.
Say again?
We'll make a motion. We'll have a motion.
Okay.
Somebody wanna make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the conceptual rezoning in First United Methodist Church property from R3 to C1.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any comments from the audience? I think we've had one from up here, so not, hold the board.
Ivy,
Abstain.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes.
Thank you, Sue. We'll just need to get some information about what the next step is. I'm sure our attorney will know that very well.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Good to see you.
It's been a long night. Let's all go home.
Yeah, yeah.
Shortly.
We gotta pay bills.
Well, we got other things to do. We have no business from the audience?
No, sir.
None. Mr. Attorney?
Nothing further, sir.
Okey dokey. So we'll go to 13A, property lease to Highlands Art League. Mr. Natelick.
Council, before you, you have an agenda packet that has 2 attachments that contain leases that we have with the Highlands Art League.
Scott. We can't hear. We need to get to a microphone.
You can't hear me right here?
I'm not hearing you through this.
And you haven't been hearing me all night. Can you hear me now?
Well, I was gonna say something earlier, but I just didn't. I left you alone.
So attachment 1 is a lease between the city and Highlands Art League for the Museum of the Arts property. And that is the property, the 2-story structure that is right next to the Highlands Little Theater.
Yes.
The second attachment is a lease that we have with the Highlands Art League for what they call the Magnolia Village property, which consists of the 3 buildings on the left-hand side of Jack Troop Civic Center, if you will, if you're looking at the lake. And the Art League has approached city staff, and due to economic conditions, it necessitates them downsizing, and they're looking to terminate the lease for the 2 properties that front Lakeview. The Visual Arts Center that sits on the lake, they continue to wish to lease because there's currently a grant that they have with the Department of Cultural Affairs that expires in 2026. And in that grant, if it ceases to become an artist type building or one used for various types of artist type of activities, they will owe back the portion of grant that they have obtained from the Department of Cultural Affairs. Gloria Peters is here, representing the Art League. And refresh my memory, how much is that?
$30,000.
That's $30,000. So I don't believe at this point in time that you all wish to terminate that portion of the lease. It's just the 2 buildings fronting Lakeview.
Oh, that's too bad.
I'm a little confused on the one that they want to keep.
Yes, sir. Which is what used to be
Magnolia Restaurant.
Magnolia Restaurant?
Yeah.
So it's the one that sits
The one in the
on the
very
lake.
back.
Correct, fronts the lake.
Are you guys still using it? Or is it still being, is it being used or?
Well, we're using it up until about the 15th of March, yes.
Okay.
That's our Visual Arts Center.
Mhm.
That's where a lot of our classes take place. That's where our summer camp takes place.
Okay, so you'll still be able to do that at some point?
Yes.
Okay.
We hope.
All right. I'm sorry for you guys. You put a lot of time and money in those other buildings, the front ones. So do we, as a matter of fact.
I have a question for you in regards to if you also give up the lease of that building in order, is the reason you're keeping it just so you don't have to pay back that $30,000 or the?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question, sir.
The reason that you want to keep the lease on the Magnolia Village is what I'm gonna call it, is so you don't have to pay back that grant that was given in that regard.
Yes. And, I mean, if we can afford to keep it up, it is a place that we use. Otherwise, we have to move everything to the museum and have all of our classes and everything out of the museum. It'll be very tight.
But that's really the prime property on the lake, though, the Magnolia Village. Would that be an accurate statement? I mean, the other buildings, the little yellow house is more towards the street. Correct?
There's two houses.
Yeah, the two houses, they're more towards the street, so. And then my next question is, if we were to do something different with that property, if, for instance, they were to give up all the leases on all three properties, could we do something, the city or the CRA or someone, like us, to still keep that grant if it was used for a artistic purpose?
If it's used culturally, and they have a long list of what they consider cultural, then it can still be used and the grant does not have to be repaid. We are in the process of trying to find someone else who either wants to use the whole building or wants to use part of the building. We'd love to share the building with someone. Maybe this historic society that I know is outgrowing the library might have an interest, I don't know. We sort of cut this business off in the middle of March and have not addressed it since then.
Well, I would like to throw an idea out here, and I talked with one or two, the mayor and a few of the citizens around as to what else could be done with that property over there if the Art League wasn't going to use it. And one suggestion that I'm going to bring up is that those buildings could be torn down. They are old buildings, and something like an outdoor amphitheater could be built there to help bring some people into the city on a regular basis. Let's just say Friday night, Saturday night. I also talked to Vanessa from the Little Theater. She said they would love to have something like that and would love to run something like an outdoor amphitheater at that location. So I'm a little inclined to say that we should look at a lot of options here. I know the Art League can't afford to continue, but I think we need to look at options for all three instead of tying ourselves up with one building there and continuing our lease with the Art League on the one building and have the two that are I'm going to say a little less desirable because they're not directly lakefront, and look at some options here and discuss it before we just say let's continue the lease. I know they can't afford the other leases, and I think that's one bad side about entering what I'm going to call a long-term lease that's one-sided, meaning that one party can walk away, and the city is bound by that 30-year lease, or was when they first did it. And that goes back to the city council that approved it a long time ago, and I know they had reasons for doing it. But nonetheless, to tie ourselves up, to tie our hands behind our back, and then lease it to an entity, whoever it may be, and for a long term, and then somewhere along the way they can walk away from it and say, hey, we can't handle that anymore. That really ties the city's hands from making improvements that we might all like to do along the lakefront, for instance. So I would talk against allowing them to just keep the lease with the one building, and let's review that before we really take a hard look at it.
I can agree with you that, Charlie. I think what, and maybe an option is, one of those options is to say, okay, your grant expires in 2026. By the time we figure out what we're going to do with that, it's going to be 2026. Is that this portion of the lease expires when that grant expires, and the city also has the opportunity to buy out that grant, because the grant, I believe in the last 5 years, decreases 20% a year. So in 3 years, it'll be down 60% roughly, 40 to 60%. So, you know, you're gonna be down in the 10 to 15 range, and if the CRA, they've got kind of a waterfront plan that they wanna do anyway, if that comes to fruition, well, at that point in time, then we can buy out the lease, but at the end of that 2026, that lease would expire. We can always renegotiate if they, all of a sudden, it's revitalized and the art league needs something like that, and it's available, but I agree with you, Charlie, just to let that run out to, another 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
And when we have the opportunity, and I think that, to me, that band shell that sits out over the lake would be pretty cool,
I have to
And,
tell you, that fires me up, actually.
So, so there's some options that we have in here, and then, if they're leasing MODA, I think you leave that alone.
How about if we do short-term leases on that, and so that if we do get our consensus sooner, that,
Well, I think you accomplish the same thing, is we can buy your lease out at any time.
yeah.
Because we're gonna they're obligated for that 30,000
Okay.
until 2026. That way, if we structure it to say, that part on that house, that lease is for 2026, but the city has the option to buy out that lease at any time.
Okay, but does that cost the city, is what I'm getting at?
Well, it would, but we'd have a plan in place, and by that time, we're not gonna do anything for the next 2 or 3 years anyway. So you're gonna be halfway through that,
Yeah, you'll be
so.
halfway through, then we might be able to do something. I
Right.
guess the point I'm getting at is, if we use it for a cultural center, we don't have to worry
And-
about that 2026.
Right.
So
Well, we
that's-
we could do something else with it,
Yeah,
yes,
that's true,
correct,
too.
so.
So,
But
if
I
we
think
do-
I would rather put the burden on the art league to find out something to do in the next 5 or 6 years than have the city to come up and put together some kind of recreation program or cultural program. I think they are better suited to do that than what the city is, but. But we-
Possibly, but, again, they're asking to walk away from 2 leases. So I would rather have a short-term lease for the remaining building. And then if we do get it together, you may be right, I know government moves very slowly sometimes.
All the time.
But nonetheless, if we just do, let's say, a two-year lease, and then we can always renew it for another 2 years and 2 years after that, if we haven't come up with that waterfront plan and moved in that direction at that time. So that's what I would prefer, a shorter-term lease, and again,
But I think you're still, the issue that you have that comes into play still is that grant, one way or the other. If we're gonna cut the lease off and say, go ahead and pay your grant.
Well, no, because if we're still using it for a cultural thing,
Right.
then the grant still
Well,
is.
but if you tear it down and put a band shell in there, you're not using the facility, that's the problem.
Is it
That grant was
facility
for
or the
facility
land?
improvement.
And I don't know. And
That grant was for facility improvement.
Right.
So the way I understand it is that if you bulldoze the building, you can, well, I guess you could hold art classes in the wind or something,
Well, and again, with the, outdoor amphitheater, certainly is an
Oh, yeah.
artistic thing, it's a cultural.
Right,
thing.
but it's not the building itself, so that's what that money.
Looking at this realistically, if you were today to start on this project of building a beautiful area down there, how long would it take you to get from today until you were ready to tear down the building? I mean, wouldn't it be a couple of years?
Oh, at
Do you
least.
have the funding now to do that? Do you have the plans?
No,
Do
it
you
would
have-
take, reasonably 2 to 5 years. Sure. But what if turns out to be 4, or some big factor comes up, then we have to come back.
So
and
we'll
ask you
sign
to-
a lease on that building as long as you guys want us to, or hold the lease that we have until 2026. And if we find someone else that wants to use the building along with us and share the costs of it, that would even make it better for us.
I would I would rather see a shorter term lease on the one remaining building if we're just gonna walk away. And then it may drag on for 5 years or 6 years. It very easily could. But if for some reason some benefactor comes up and says, hey, here's some money if you, towards this project, then it might be preventative for us to have to come back to you and say, hey, we need you to walk away from this lease, and there may be different people there than you, for instance, right now, that
Well,
say, no,
build
we're
something something into the lease that says either one of us can, break the lease.
Yeah.
That would be.
Do it annually renewable.
Bob, can you do something like that, please?
Sure.
Because she wants to work with us, and we want to do the same, so. And I think the end goal is something good for the city, so.
Exactly.
Do an annual renewable.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Automatically renews unless notified by either party.
Yeah.
I think the issue still comes into play, what happens with that grant in a year if we say, hey, we're done.
Well, we'll
It's
adjust
their
that, though.
responsibility.
You know, if it comes down to it, we'll figure it out. You're a bank, for God's sakes.
Ralph will take care of it.
all the money was left.
Okay, so we don't need to vote on that if Bob's gonna redo it. Okay. Is that right, Leonard?
Well, it says we need a motion, staff recommendation or whatever. So just make a motion for the attorney to, come up with it.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We have,
Short-term lease.
Attorney Swain, rewrite this lease according to the verbiage that we just gave him.
I'll second.
That's renewable every year.
Well, I understand that, but what about the vacating of the lease for the other two properties? Does that need to be part of the motion?
It does, and let's.
We'll work on that in the same lease redraft.
So we're not doing that right now, we're just gonna instruct you to,
We'll come back with that document.
okay. And,
Okay.
okay, you made the motion, who seconded? I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So do we have a time on this, or?
Not yet, but you will. He's gonna put it together on paper, and,
So will it be like the next meeting, or?
I would expect probably,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you guys very much for
Thank
your
you
time.
No sweat.
By the way, if anybody should come up with an idea for someone who might need some property, there are those two houses that you'll have to fill, plus if, you want something in the VAC, we'll be happy to look at it. And if anyone has a wife, or any of you are interested in being on our board of directors, we would love to have you. We have come real short on our board of directors, and we need some more leadership. So give me a call, give Janelle a call. We really would appreciate it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you all intend for
you've
the?
done over the years, by the way. We do appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
So if we're going to carve off the house that has the parking lot from the VAC, are you intending for the patrons of the VAC to park in the Civic Center parking lot, or are they keeping a right to park in the parking lot up front?
They park wherever they can.
For the
Park in the
VAC
public.
For the
Pub-
VAC, we usually park in the parking lot that basically is for the library
Library,
and everything
yeah.
else.
Public
Okay.
parking.
Then we can carve that part.
Yeah, that would be good, because then if we can rent those other houses to
Yeah.
someone.
Right, they'll need
They
parking.
will
Yeah.
need parking.
Okay. All right, we got a motion and a second. Is there any comments from the audience? No more concerns? Kathy, pull the board.
Ivy,
Yes.
Lawrence.
Yep.
Stewart,
Yes,
Carlisle.
Yes. Okay, we need to pay the bills.
so moved.
Second.
Hold on. I'm not ready.
Okay.
That was faster than Buddy used to make it.
Yeah.
I know, Stewart, you did it, and who else?
Did somebody check on Tom in the last?
I know.
I haven't heard him snoring.
I hope this is the longest
Told
meeting
one.
you have, Mr. Carlisle.
Hey.
You're getting off the bad stuff.
Hey, we're not done yet. Ivy,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yeah.
Stewart,
Yes,
Carlisle.
Yes.
Now we're done.
are we done?
We do.
Are we done, Lamar?
Can we go on now?